Ahead, get started. So, welcome back to the Power Within. This is the leadership course that I do every other Monday. So, bi weekly, I do the Power Within. And today is episode 6, Communication and Active Listening. So, I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. So, listening to understand. Now, with most people listen to respond, not to understand. That is the biggest issue in communication is the listening part. When you're conversing with someone, so many people conversations are driven by reaction rather than reflection. When you're having conversations, a lot of people they listen because they're waiting to react or respond to it, or whatever you're saying. You can't finish your conversation because they're too busy trying to justify what it is. But as a leader, the most important thing is to listen. And it's hard sometimes because it's not that you don't want to listen, it's just learned behavior. Maybe you grew up in a household where that's how you guys communicated. You know what I mean? Or maybe you grew up in a household where you were never able to talk, and the adult had to, or the one that was in the leadership position of that home, had to be the one to get it out. So, no telling how, it goes, but at the same time, you have to understand that people are different. You can relay the same message and you can have the same conversations, but it has to be relayed differently. So many conversations are driven by reaction rather than reflection. So instead of stopping to think and registering what a person is saying, you're too busy trying to give your reaction. So, and I teach that in the heal version, as you step out of survival mode and step into the heal version of your true authentic self. That is one of the most important thing, is not to react anymore, and that is to respond. So another thing is people often prepare their reply while the other person is still speaking. So if you're doing that, if someone's speaking, I see a lot of people, they'll take notes while someone's speaking because they want to come back and talk about that. Or people are preparing their reply, so that means that you're not listening to me. You've stopped at something that triggered you. Whatever I said just triggered you, and you stopped listening and you start preparing. That means after that trigger, you haven't thought about anything else that I'm saying. That it hasn't even crossed your mind on what did she just say, because you're too busy listening to reply and not listening to understand. So, uh, as a leader, you have to listen. You can't be ready to prepare your reply, as I'm speaking, because sometimes when you interrupt someone when they're talking, what happens is, if you just stay quiet enough, if you just listen, it'll probably answer your question down the line. So this posture limits insight and weakens the connection. So if you and I'm the leader, right? Or you are the leader, and this is going to weaken our connection as the subordinate or the leader, or however it is, someone that's in charge. It'll weaken our connection because now what you just told me is I can't talk to you. And if I do have something to say, you won't listen to me. So that's one of the things. So it will limit your insight and weaken your connection. But true leadership requires listening for meaning, not simply waiting for your turn to speak. So if you're that person that's constantly waiting to speak, you can't wait till it's your turn. I mean, you just sitting in your seat. You can't sit still because you're waiting on someone to tell you, okay, next you go. You are definitely the person that does not listen to understand. You listen to reply. So that's just some of the things that we have to think about in communication and active listening, and reacting, because reactive listening defends, is always in defensive mode, right? And intentional listening discerns. That means that I'm listening and I'm processing what's happening. So I'm not giving a reaction, not at all. What I'm giving is a response, a correct response, a healthy response. It's coming from a place of I'm understanding. I thank you guys for the like. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead subscribe, because I teach this every bi-weekly. I'm always teaching the leadership course. So another one is leaders listen with presence. Leaders listen with presence. Spiritual leaders listen with focus, patience, and discernment. Spiritual leaders listen with focus, patience, and discernment. Because as a spiritual leader, how can I guide you if I don't understand you? Meaning that You're telling me something, but I have to hear God's voice. And if I'm too busy doing this, and I'm too busy doing everything that I can't understand and interpret what God is telling me, then I'm not going to give you the best advice. I'm going to give it to you from my own understanding and not God's. So presence means giving someone your full attention mentally and emotionally. So leaders listen to with presence, meaning that I'm here. I'm not doing this. I'm not bumping around while you're talking. I'm not saying, "Oh, can you pass me that? Oh, oh, can you do that? Okay, okay, I'm listening. I'm listening. Go ahead, go ahead." And while they're talking to you, you bumping around in the kitchen, you knocking over plates, you doing everything. You telling the kids, "Go sit down," while this person is talking to you. You're doing everything but being present. That is so important for people, especially in the, thank you, God, especially in the times that we're in right now. It is so much going on in the world, and it is so many people that need help. A lot of people need therapy, right? Not a life coach. I'm a life coach, and I always direct people to therapists. That is the best thing you can ever have, because the world that we live in is only listening to get out of it what they need to get out of it. You can have a heartfelt. A lot of people don't know how to communicate. So if you come to me, a lot of people don't open up because they don't know how to articulate what they're really feeling. What they're articulating is experience. That's why it takes them so long to get to the point, because they don't know how to directly say it without being judged. So as a leader and as a life coach, I don't guide you into what you need to say. I'm just present while you're speaking, because the more I'm present, the more comfortable you are with finding those words, meaning that you're finding those emotions to put the words to. Okay? So when leaders truly listen, they gather wisdom, build trust, and respond from clarity instead of assumption. Now, I know a lot of y'all have friends and you want to go to your friends, right? We live in different times now. See, back in the 80s, those was real friends. Back in the 70s, those was real friends. Even we get to the 90s, those were real friends. What we have now is trenders, meaning that it's trendy to have you in my life right now, and once that trend is over with, goodbye. Loyalty doesn't matter. So you can't really trust to talk to anyone. So as a leader, when someone come to you, they're expecting you to be not what the world presents to them. The world presents to them fake. They expect you to be something that's out of the you the Moses to them. They need to talk to you. So as a leader, just be present and truly listen. Don't assume, don't let them get four words out and then you jump in with the, okay, I know exactly what you're saying, because when I was 12 I did the same thing. I had the same experience. Let me do it. And then all of a sudden it turns into you. It turns into, instead of it, waiting to the end, then you give your testimony. You just take over the conversation and you make them feel like, or you make them feel less than, or you'll make them change what they're feeling, right? Meaning that they really feel depressed, but listening to you and you said no, and I had anxiety. Now they're confused, like, okay, I'm not depressed, I have anxiety. Don't coach them into how they feel. Let them explain how they feel. You're the leader. As a leader, just listen. You want to build trust, because we live in a world right now that it is so much going on. It is so many people that need help. It is so much going on. People are losing their jobs. People are dealing with grief. People are dealing with so many different things in life. And what they need from you is to be a friend, a listening ear. And if I do need wisdom, I don't need it to come from a place of an unhealed individual. And that's another thing. When you're going through a change and you want change in your life, right? And you want to heal and you want to become better, you cannot go get advice from the survival mode friends, low vibrational people that you used to do, because they're going to give you low vibrational advice. Instead of them saying, well, this is the correct thing to do, go get therapy, read past scripture such and such, or here's a life coach, or go find coach not, or anything. They're not going to do that. What they're going to tell you is what you need to do is maybe you need to put on your boxing gloves, maybe you need to do that, and that's not good for you. So as a leader, leaders, we truly listen. We listen to understand. We gather the wisdom and we do not assume. We get clarity and we do not assume anything. Okay. So presence creates safety, and safety invites honesty. If I can give you a safe environment, then you'll be honest with yourself. And as a life coach, if I give you create this environment for you to feel safe, then for you what you'll do is you'll feel like you can just be honest because you're safe. Fear creeps in and keeps you from feeling safe, which causes you to close up everything. So, in the healing process and in leadership, you have to always, as a leader, create a safe space. Leadership doesn't mean that you have to be a manager. Like I teach in my women's leadership, is that leadership can be as simple as your character. What is your character? That's what can lead people and make them to want to do better. So just remember, it's not always about holding a mic and having soldiers or, having employees. That's not what makes you a leader. What makes you a leader is someone that can stand in purpose, and purpose is of God. And of God, meaning that purpose is how can you help others? How can you help others is by operating in your purpose, right? And doing the right thing. So another one is internal noise blocks clarity. Yes, internal noise blocks clarity. Let's look at a couple. Distraction, ego, fear, and preconceived opinions create internal noises. When you're looking to do something, you want your business to be successful. You getting ready to open your business, and guess what you do? The internal noise say, but it ain't gonna work. The internal noise tell you, who gonna eat there? Who's gonna eat at your restaurant? Who's gonna buy your service? There's so many life coaches out there. Who's gonna do this? Who's gonna do that? You've seen what happened to such and such. That's the internal noise that'll block your clarity of God teaching you and telling you what's the next step. So when the mind is crowded, clarity becomes distorted. Yeah. And then spiritual leadership requires inner stillness so that discernment, wisdom, and understanding can rise above emotional interference. And why is spiritual leadership requires inner stillness? Why? Because it's your nervous system. As I teach you guys, your nervous system is your discernment. That is how God speaks to you, through your nervous system. So you have to learn to be still so you can receive that wisdom. A quiet inner life produces clear leadership. Okay? So listening is leadership in action. That is what I want you to take away from this class, is that listening is leadership in action. So the next time that you're having a conversation, I want you to listen to understand, and I want you to think listening is leadership in action. I don't care if you are the subordinate, right? I don't care if you are the employee and your manager's talking to you, right? You portray leadership because then you can teach them how to lead. Now let's get into the RPI reflection for communication and active listening. The RPI is to acknowledge, release, practice, enter, explore, and E for empowerment, which this is the 5 pillars of the foundation of the Trinity of Fitness Bootcamp. So this is how you check and balance yourself. This is something that I created so you can check and balance yourself whenever you find yourself in a situation that you're triggered. RPI, checks and balance. So let's go. A for acknowledge. Where am I listening to respond instead of understanding? This is your homework too. Okay? Where am I listening to respond instead of understanding? R for release. I release distractions, assumptions, and the need to be right. I release that. P for practice. Pause, listen fully, and respond with clarity and intention. And then I for inner explore. What internal noise, meaning your ego, fear, distraction, affects how I listen? E for empower. I lead through listening, clarity, and intentional communication. Now, this is our declaration. So, because this is a 2-week course, I give 2 weeks worth of homework. So, your declaration, I want you to repeat after me. I listen to understand, not to reply. I communicate with clarity, compassion, and presence. I quiet internal noise and hear with intentions. My words build, guide, and bring peace. I am a safe and effective communicator. So, now we're going to get into your journaling, what you're going to journal. I gave you 2 prompts. You can journal, where do I interrupt instead of understanding? Are you that type of person that when they're talking, you have to interrupt? You have to prove yourself? What I teach you guys is you don't have to prove your self-worth to anyone. Because trust me, they're going to believe the lie anyway. It doesn't matter if you give them the truth. The lie is more entertaining than the truth. But as a leader, you have to be okay with that, knowing that that's what may happen, and you have to be okay with that. So journal tonight is, where do I interrupt instead of understanding? And what internal dialogue blocks my listening? Meaning, is it your ego? Is it your pride? Is it the negative self-talk? What is it that is blocks your listening? Then I want you to meditate. I want you to meditate. I want you to focus on presence and discernment and reflect. This is for 2 weeks now. This is 2 weeks worth of homework. Reflect quietly. And I want you to say, think about or say, am I truly listening or just preparing to respond? What internal noise is blocking my clarity? And how can I be more present in conversations? How do you show up in conversations? Do you show up with, are you that one that's, right, 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 right. When I hear people like that, yeah, 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 right, right, right. All I hear is, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm ready to go. I just want you to stop talking so I can be done. You know? So your leadership activity is, I want you for 5 minute daily listening. I want you to listen to some type of meditation. 5 minutes daily listening to some type of meditation. I don't want you fixing on anything. I don't want you responding. This is what I want you to focus on. Not responding to everything when someone's speaking. Just hear them out. Baby, sometimes it's hard because they don't know how to land the plane, but it's okay. It's okay. Learn to be patient, be present, and listening. Do not respond. Create a safe space for them. Be the safe space. So that is the end of this teaching. The next teaching will be, I do this every other Monday, so bi-weekly. Episode 7 is self-love, awareness, and regulation. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead, subscribe, hit the notification bell, because I go live every Sunday to teach the women of the Bible in leadership. I teach that. And then I teach the power within here on YouTube. And if you missed any of my YouTube teachings, you can go to my playlist. In my playlist, I have all the teachings there. Listen, I really enjoyed myself. You guys have an amazing day. Remember to pour into yourself before you pour into others. Coach and I out.